Attention! Before attempting any photographic experiment, make sure you read and follow all product guidelines, wear the necessary protective gear, and dispose of all chemicals according to city bylaws. In other words, don't be a darkroom dillhole.
Is expired Dektol worth your time and money? Let's find out. In this episode, I mix up a couple of batches of expired Dektol to see if there's any difference from the fresh stuff or if it's worth using at all. Kodak Dektol has been around for a long time. It was introduced in the 1940s as a replacement for D72. I come across expired chems now and then. Now I already know that powders are way better than liquids, so when I came across a bunch of cans of old Dektol dating back to the 1960s, I jumped right on it. For this experiment, I'm going to mix up 3 separate batches of Dektol. The first is going to be a fresh batch. The pack doesn't expire until December 2019, and this is being filmed in July. The second is a smaller pack. It expired in 2011, and the third is a can that expired in 1966. At least that's what I suspect. It is stamped on what appears to be May 1966. Of course, the first thing that I needed to do was to mix all 3 developers. My first batch was the biggest, coming in at 3.8 liters total. This is what Dektol should look like. Next up is the 2011 batch, coming in at just 1 liter. This one looked a bit more yellow to me. And finally, our 53-year-old Dektol with this nifty pull top. The powder looked quite a bit different from the other 2. There is also an immediate difference when I poured it into water. I have to admit, I questioned whether or not I should even bother at this point. So I'm making 1.9 liters here, but I don't have a 2-liter container, so I'm swapping out a 1 liter and 2 500 milliliter cups. Eventually, it's all mixed into one batch properly. I mixed all 3 at around 100 Celsius. I bottled them up and left all 3 batches of Dektol for 24 hours to ensure that they settled to room temperature. While getting ready to make the working solution the next day, I wanted to take a look at the difference in color again. The fresh one was normal, of course, the 2011 was a little yellow, and the 1966 was a cream soda. Here's my strip test. Each line represents 1 second. I went with 3 seconds. I'm doing this quick and dirty. It doesn't matter if exposure is spot on, just how it compares to the other 2. This is my initial print. Looks good overall. Here's my second print from the 2011 batch. And finally, here's the third from the 1966 batch. Let's line them up side by side. Now to me, this looks really close. It looks more like 3 random batches of Dektol compared rather than fresh versus expired. To be completely satisfied though, I needed to see them up close and side by side on a scan. And I scanned them in pairs to ensure consistent scan exposure. Let's zoom in on the sign and first compare fresh versus 2011. Honestly, if you can see the difference, you have a better eye than I do. I know they're not identical, but I don't see any difference here that would seem to me the result of being expired. I just see a slight variation from being an analog process. Let's zoom in on 2019 versus 1966. Now I see a bit of a difference. The first thing I noticed was a loss in sharpness and contrast, but we have to get pretty close to see this. I just want to show you these 3 pictures again, and why don't you see for yourself if you can tell which one is from the 1966 batch. Did you get it right? So to answer the question, is expired Dektol worth your time and money? I would say yes, it is. Despite what our digital counterparts might say, sharpness is not a live or die situation. Other things need to be taken into account, like viewing distance, and at arm's length, I can't tell the difference. No one is going to be looking at your photos as closely as we're looking at these. Even in a gallery, I guarantee nobody's going to be like, it's a little soft. At the very least, you can use it for film you don't care about because you can develop film with it, though it is grainy. I might consider using the good Dektol if I was going to make a super limited edition print or something. But for the one-offs I toss up on my Etsy page, I still think this is good enough. I mean, maybe you disagree, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, moving forward, I'm going to be using this for most of my work. Because I've got almost 7 liters of the stuff right now. So if you have any Dektol experiment ideas, please, I am all ears. I will have a link in the description for high-res scans of these prints. Who knows, maybe there's something I missed. Well, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, maybe you'll consider supporting me on Patreon. On Patreon, I have newsletters, early access, and free prints. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and until next time, stay classic.